Hey there, I'm Olivia. I am 52 years old. I died in my home office in Georgetown on February 17th, right there at my desk, in the middle of a sentence, while I was refreshing Twitter to see how my latest article was making people angry. You might know what it's like to get praise in front of other people, but feel like no one sees you. That was me. Most people said I had made it. A writer who writes about politics, regular viewer of cable news, nominated for an Emmy. I made sure that I was the loudest person in the room. People listened to what I said, which could start fires or ruin reputations. But behind the spotlight, I was getting smaller. There were a lot of awards in my apartment, but the dinner table was always set for one. Robert, my ex-husband, used to beg me to turn it off. Just for tonight, Elle, he would say. Be here, with me, not with everyone in the world. But I couldn't. I was addicted to the thrill, the importance, and the righteous anger. 4 years ago, we got a divorce. He said that politics became my God. I said that was over the top. But now, I'm not sure he was wrong. Marcus, my son, is 24. He used to admire me. When he was a kid, we would watch the news together, and I would explain everything to him, like polls, policies, and debates. He took it all in, but he got used to his own ideas and became calmer and more moderate. I didn't deal with that well. I'll always remember the night I wrote a column that made fun of today's soft centrists. He sent me a text with 2 words, nice job. That was the last time we really talked. I didn't say his name in the article, but we both knew. You might have said something you wish you could take back. Or maybe you've lost someone, not because of a tragedy, but because you were too proud. I hadn't talked to my parents in years either. Christians from Virginia, who are conservative, they were hurt by what I said in public. I was mad at them for not saying anything during what I thought were national emergencies. We both got tougher. Some nights, I would look at their Facebook pages to see if they still talked about me. No, they didn't. I lived by myself in a tall building in Georgetown. There were windows that went all the way to the floor, an espresso machine that cost more than some people's rent, and a cat named Truman, who only liked me when I fed him. The Capitol dome glowed like a beacon of everything I used to believe in when I sat at my desk. I drank black coffee in the morning and bourbon at night, take anxiety pills at noon, melatonin at 12 a.m. I was always typing, thinking, and arguing with someone in my head. I told myself it was my job to fight against unfairness, but I think I just didn't know how to be quiet. You know that moment when the noise stops and you don't feel calm. You feel scared instead? That was the scariest thing for me. No sound. Stillness. I filled it with news, debates, likes, and comments. I was never alone, but I always felt alone. I had just published a book called The Dictator's Playbook the night I died. I was proud of it. Brutal, smart, and harsh. The kind of article that goes viral. I kept refreshing my screen and watching the numbers go up. Likes, reposts, and angry comments. Gas. Then all of a sudden, it hit me. A sharp pain in the back of my eyes. Blindfolded. I couldn't see clearly. I tried to grab my phone, but it fell. I remember grabbing the desk's edge and gasping. Then there was nothing. I had been dead for 11 minutes when they found me. It's strange. You spend your whole life trying to be heard and make a difference. And then, all of a sudden, it's over. No crew with cameras, no last speech, just quiet. But that silence was the start of something I never thought would happen. I'm still trying to figure it all out. But I know for sure that what I saw on the other side changed everything. I thought I knew what power was before that moment. I thought I knew about politics, countries, and people. But what Jesus taught me about leaders like Trump and Putin, it made me speechless. And that's saying a lot. I always thought death would be loud. Sirens, screams, a mess. But when it happened to me, it was quiet. I was sitting in my chair, staring at my computer screen and watching my article go viral. And then I felt a sharp, tearing pain behind my eyes. It felt like lightning had hit my brain. I remember gasping and putting my hand on my head, which knocked over a mug. It broke on the floor. I tried to get up, but my legs wouldn't let me. Everything around me became blurry. My chest got tight. My body fell to the side and hit the hardwood floor with a thud. My cat Truman ran out of the room. The screen kept glowing above me, making the room look like a ghost. I couldn't take a breath, not able to move. I remember saying to myself, "This is it. I'm going to die alone." And then, silence. I was scared for a second. I felt like I was in a shell that I had slipped out of. I floated above myself, not sure what to do. I could see everything, the spilled coffee, my crumpled body, and the headline still flashing on the screen, the dictator's playbook. I should have freaked out, but I didn't. I felt peace instead, a kind of peace I'd never felt before. The headlines, the arguments, and the anger that had been in my life were all gone, just like that. And instead, there was silence that wasn't empty. It was full, like taking a deep breath after crying too much. The room then started to fade, not like the lights going out, but like everything around me was slowly coming off. I felt myself being pulled up, but not yanked or dragged, just raised. The city was gone below me. The sounds of cars and sirens went away. I didn't even feel the weight of my body. And as I walked through this strange space, this in-between, I could feel something changing inside of me. It felt like I was getting rid of the part of me that had been fighting for so long. No due dates, no rage, don't be afraid, just a little light. And then, all of a sudden, I was standing, but not on the ground. It was more like being in the middle of forever. There was something in front of me that I still can't put into words. A place that was so big and bright, but it didn't hurt my eyes. It felt like it was breathing and alive. I could tell I was in a room, even though there were no walls. It was a throne room. The air itself was full of energy and purpose. I looked around and saw something that looked like a huge map. No, it wasn't a map. A picture that moves. The whole world was in front of me, glowing and changing. Countries, cities, and people. I could see it all. And all of a sudden, I got it all. I should have felt overwhelmed, but I felt safe instead. Then I saw him. Jesus. I don't know how I knew it was him. There was no name tag and no voice saying he was there. I just knew. He walked toward me, dressed in what looked like light itself. Not bright light, but warm light. Like the sun coming up after a long night. His eyes, oh God, his eyes. They had it all, fire and softness, fairness and kindness, sadness and happiness. And when he saw me, I broke. All the pride, all the armor, and all the opinions I had built up over the years fell away. I fell to my knees and started to cry. Not just tears, sobs that come from the heart. Someone saw me completely for the first time in my life. Every mean thing I said, every broken relationship, and every secret fear, and didn't look away. He didn't tell me off. He didn't read me Bible verses or tell me what was right and wrong. He just touched my shoulder with his hand. That touch was like being wrapped in everything I had ever wanted. Love. Unconditional love that can't be shaken. I cried even more. I said, "I'm sorry," but I didn't even know what I was sorry for. Maybe for everything. The pride, the rage, the way I hurt the people I loved while pretending to save the world. Jesus knelt down next to me. He said, "Olivia," in a soft voice, as if he had known my name forever. "My daughter." I shook my head. I messed it all up. He smiled. You were looking for the truth, but you didn't ask me where to find it. That sentence broke me because it was real. I had spent my whole life picking apart the truth, thinking about it, arguing about it, and using it as a weapon, but I had never asked him. I looked up at him with tears in my eyes. Why am I here? He stood up and reached out his hand. Come, he said. I want to show you something. And just like that, the throne room changed. The world below us opened up. People, leaders, and nations all going about their daily lives. And I knew something deep down. He was about to give me the answer to the question I had been asking my whole life. I could feel Jesus walking next to me, but it didn't feel like it. It felt like we moved with purpose instead of steps. As we moved, the air shimmered, and in front of us was that wide-angle picture I had seen before, a living map of the world, full of life. Countries were full of movement. There was a lot of noise and light in the cities. I saw people I didn't know, and some I did, like politicians, journalists, protesters, families eating dinner together, and people scrolling through their phones alone in bed. I saw fear, pride, hunger, and worship. Not just physical hunger, but also spiritual hunger. It throbbed under everything. Then I saw them, Trump, Putin, Xi Jinping, Erdogan, Netanyahu. Leaders who had been dead for a long time also came and went. Names I had written about, criticized, and talked about. Somehow, each one was connected to the hearts of the people they led. I turned to Jesus, my voice shaking. Why do you let them rise? Is a question I've asked all my life. Why should these kinds of men have a say in how the world works? Why does it hurt so much? Lead millions? He didn't answer right away. He just looked at me, and I could feel his sadness before I heard what he said. He said softly, Olivia, you've spent your whole life pointing out what's wrong with other people, but you never let me show you what it looks like. I opened my mouth to argue, which is what I always did, but nothing came out. I was exposed, not out of shame, but because it was true. He pointed to the map below. Look closer. I saw, and what I saw broke me. People weren't just following these leaders. They were copying them. It was like looking into a lot of mirrors at once. Countries didn't just put up with their leaders. They were like them. People in America chanted political slogans with the same passion that used to be used in church hymns. Social media had turned into churches. Crosses were replaced by flags. Disputes became holy wars. I saw families break up along party lines and not talk to each other. Marriages that are broken. Parents who don't want their kids anymore. Churches didn't split over beliefs, but over how people voted. It was worse than I had ever thought. I thought I was making a lot of noise, but I hadn't seen the more serious illness. Jesus spoke again, this time softly, but with a lot of weight. Olivia, I do not raise these men to power. I let them do what they want because I gave people free will. And when nations turn away from me, they pick leaders who are like the gods they already worship. Trump shows how much America wants wealth and division. Putin shows how much Russia wants power through fear. They don't make these situations. They show them. My knees gave out again. I fell to the floor, if you could call it that, and cried. I didn't know, I said quietly. I didn't see it that way. Jesus got down on his knees next to me. You were looking with your human eyes. You made decisions based on what you could see and measure, but I look at the heart. I thought I was fighting for the truth. I said, almost begging. You were, he said, putting his hand over mine. But you were using the wrong weapons to fight. Love makes truth clear, and mercy makes justice proud. That one hurt a lot, because I was sure it was me. All of my columns, every one of my talks, all of my just anger. I had become what I said I was against. I put my hands over my face. I messed up my relationships, my marriage, my boy, my mom and dad. I thought I was being strong, but I was just scared. Jesus didn't go away. His voice was quiet. Fear can look like many things: anger, control, pride, but love that is perfect gets rid of fear. That's why I brought you here, not to judge you, but to set you free. I cried again, deep, cleansing sobs that seemed to come from every broken part of my life. My shoulders shook as years of stress, work, and pain came out. I looked up at him after a long time of silence. What should I do now? How can I fix everything I've broken? Jesus stood up and reached out his hand again. You can't fix it, but I can fix it, if you let me. And just like that, I saw flashes, brief looks at what might be. Me, sitting at the kitchen table with Marcus, listening instead of talking. I called my parents and didn't talk about politics. I just told them I loved them. Writing is not to tear down, but to show hearts. Not to make things worse, but to make them better. I saw people I didn't know in churches, homes, and prisons reading my words and crying. It wasn't because I was smart. It was because I had pointed them to him. I turned back to Jesus, my heart racing. Please let me stay here. I've never felt this complete before. I don't want to go back. He smiled, but it was a smile that showed both happiness and sadness. Yes, my daughter, people who meet me never want to leave, but a lot of people still need to know what you know now. Like who? I asked, still holding on to the peace around me. He turned his gaze back to the map. It started to show faces, not leaders, kids, teenagers, people in their 20s, students in college. They looked lost, stressed out, and angry. Their eyes were glued to screens that were full of news, opinions, and fear. There were so many voices that they couldn't hear me. They're trying to understand the world, Jesus said, but they're being taught by division, not by truth. After reading a thread full of hate, I saw a teenage girl crying in her room. I saw a young man get angry because he thought he had no future. I saw a kid who was only 10 say that he hated people who didn't vote like his parents did. They need someone to help them see things from a higher point of view, Jesus said in a calm but firm voice. They need someone to tell them that they are not political tools. They are my children. I turned around and looked at him. You want me to go back and do that? He nodded, not to yell louder, but to talk more clearly. Not to win arguments, but to win people over. You used to say you were a truth teller. Now be a bringer of love. Point them to me. I cried. I felt like I was being pulled in two different directions. How could I get out of this? He must have seen it in me because he leaned in and said, I will be with you. Always. Every word you write. Every person you touch. I'm not asking you to save the world. I already did that. I'm asking you to tell them why it matters. And just like that, everything around me started to fade. It was like being thrown into a body I didn't know when I opened my eyes. The lights above me were too bright. The machine's beeping was too loud and too cold. I tried to breathe, but the mask over my face scared me. It hurt my throat. My head hurt. There were wires, tubes, and strange voices all around me saying, she's awake, she's back. Back. Back to the ground. Back to the noise. Back to a world that suddenly seemed too small. I had been around love that was perfect. I had heard the voice that made the stars. I had been in front of Jesus. I was now in a hospital room at George Washington University Hospital, blinking in the fluorescent lights. I was very sad. Not grief for the world, not yet, but grief for leaving him behind. The calm, the completeness, the warmth that didn't need to be explained. I wanted to scream, take me back, I closed my eyes and wished the throne room would come back. It didn't, but then I remembered what he had said last. I will be with you, always. Every word you write, every person you touch. So I said softly, through lips that were cracked, okay, I'll go. It took weeks to get better, but I wasn't the same woman lying in that hospital bed, not even close. Doctors said it was a miracle. Dead for 11 minutes in the hospital, in a coma for 3 days, but awake, aware, and somehow at peace. They thought there would be trauma, confusion, and fear. I kept asking for a pen and paper instead. They didn't get it, but I knew I had to get to work. I called Marcus first. I didn't send a text. I didn't send an email. I asked the nurse to help me write a letter by hand. My sweet son, I have spent so many years trying to win arguments that I forgot how to love people. I don't care what your political beliefs are. I want you to know that I love you and that I'm sorry for all of it. I'm sorry. If you don't mind, let's start over. Dear Mom. 2 days later, he showed up at the hospital and stood awkwardly in the doorway with sunflowers in his hands. He thought it would be funny because I always said roses were too common. We both cried. No arguments, no talks, just love. Love that is real, messy, and healing. Robert came next. It had been 4 years since they got a divorce. It had been 4 years since I called him arrogant, uncaring, and emotionally unavailable on TV. He came into my hospital room ready to fight. I said I was wrong instead. You wanted to love me, and I wanted to be right. For a long time, he didn't say anything. Then he sat next to me and said softly, I miss this part of you. But it wasn't just about getting along with people. It was about changing what I lived for. Before I died, my calendar was full of political panels, TV hits, and campaign trail exposés. Like a hunter in the wild, I chased the next scandal. I agreed to everything and everyone except the people who really mattered. Now, things look different. I don't work 80 hours a week anymore. Online life isn't my thing. I don't write to make people angry. I write to invite them. Hearts Before Headlines is the name of my new column. The first thing I wrote after I got back was called What If We're Blaming the Mirror? I didn't say who they were. I didn't take sides. I only asked readers to think about the possibility that the leaders we rage against are reflecting our own fears, pride, and misplaced hopes. And people did something. Of course, not everyone liked it. Some people said I was weak. Some people said I found religion and lost my edge. But a lot of them wrote back. Moms who hadn't talked to their kids since the 2020 election. Brothers disagree about politics. Pastors who had lost their churches because of fights. Teenagers are overwhelmed by the world's chaos. They said my words made them think. A hole in the wall. A breath of something they hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. I get up early now, not to read the news, but to sit still. I cry sometimes. There are times when I listen, but I always ask, what do you want to say today, Lord? And I wait. I started volunteering at a community center near me, not to teach politics, but to help kids who feel lost in the noise. We talk about who we are, about the goal, about love that doesn't depend on what others think or how well you do. Do you really think God cares about us? They sometimes ask me, and I say, He doesn't just care. He came for you. He died for you. And He still speaks if you want to hear. Are you scared the world is too far gone? Is something people ask me a lot, and I say no, because I have seen the one who controls everything. I've seen how sad He is and how kind He is, His fairness and His patience. He still wants us, I've heard Him say, even when we're broken, even though we are different, and I trust Him. If you're watching this, you might be tired of the news, sick of arguments, or hurt by how politics ruined your relationships. I've been there. You might be looking for a savior in the wrong place, like a party, a platform, or a person. I did that too. But there's only one savior, and he's not on a ballot. He's not trending. He's Jesus. And he's not angry with you. He's calling you home. I used to live for the headlines. Now I live for eternity. I used to shout for change. Now I whisper his name and let his love do the work. If you remember nothing else from my story, remember this. The healing of nations begins with the healing of hearts, and healing begins the moment we stop looking outward and start looking upward